So what drove Citi to develop an API framework and to publish APIs was the recognition that we can't build everything ourselves, that the world in which our customers live is now populated with increasingly, frankly, amazing experiences made possible by mobile technology, pervasive mobile data access, and almost ubiquitous availability of smart devices, smartphones in particular. And customers are experiencing, increased convenience and personalization in other aspects of their lives from other brands, whether it's in travel, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in shopping, commerce, etc. It is all about the customer. The technology has now wrapped around the customer in a way that just wasn't possible before, and so their expectations are in a very different place, and they expect the same things, similar things from their financial service providers. This started more than 2 years ago with a recognition that the world of the consumer had changed radically already with the advent of the smartphone, and in the interim 2 years that story has multiplied, as we all know. We realize we're not going to be able to build everything ourselves. We need to be able to partner. And one of the key enablers of partnering is to open the platform, enable APIs so that it's easier for partners to come and work with us. Historically, this would have been difficult for us to do. We would have needed a bespoke agreement and IP tunnel and specific agreements in terms of how code is going to interact. By publishing APIs, we make it easy for developers to work with us. We would not be able to do meaningfully this type of engagement with the fintech community if we didn't provide APIs for them to work with. It's an absolute prerequisite. I mean, a lot of the transformation that's happening in banking is involving hiring different kinds of people than banks are used to hiring, right? So, if you looked at Citi in Asia 2.5 years ago, we didn't have an in-house design team, as an example, right? So I go out and hire graphic designers and UI, UX specialists and people who understand behavioral psychology and how people, read things on a screen and interact and so forth. That emphasis and that focus wasn't there. We would rely on agencies historically to do things like that for us, and maybe they had people that had those skill sets, but bringing them into the bank so that they understand the business that they're representing, and then bringing their empathy and their understanding for how consumers work and think with tools is incredibly important. So, that's one example of a set of talent and skills that we've brought in. We need to do more of that, and we are doing more of that in the API and open banking space. So people who understand how new era companies, how they build their software and operate their software, and they make hundreds of changes a day to their website without skipping a beat. So they're truly working in an agile mode and in a very different mode. They bring that understanding, and with it, the generation of requirements of our platform to turn into APIs and surrounding support services. So one of the other obvious things is, having published these APIs and now we have customers using them and partners using them, we have to provide support. So who do they call if it breaks, if something goes wrong, right? Or they've got a question, or they're trying to do something that's not working. We are providing that technology support. That's coming out of our technology organization already, and it's working. But we now need to take that to kind of a different level. We've done a few things which we've talked about. We've run challenges. I think the Hong Kong FinTech Challenge that Citi ran recently was a great success. It drove a lot of engagement locally. We need to do more of those things. And also in that challenge we posed some specific problems where previously we had just kind of thrown the door open and said, just come and innovate with Citi, which was great because we saw some really interesting ideas, but this time we posed more specific questions around cybersecurity, around customer experience and so on. And that brought us a more focused set of potential solutions and solution providers to the frame. So I think, the engagement is important. We need to think a little bit more like technology companies who have developer relations teams whose sole purpose and focus is to make it easier for would-be partners to interact with the company. So companies like Microsoft and Apple do this all day long, and they do it really well. And they've got dedicated teams of people who are there to help developers figure out how to work in their ecosystem. And that's kind of what we need to do more of.